A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on JTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Tertola Pier Park, NV Salon Spa Nail and Barbershop, the Wellness Center, Medical and Behavioral Health Clinics, Ticely Cross Deliciously Smooth Cider, HOV Medical, and Digicel. Sign up for Digicel Plus Home Light Bundles, faster internet, movies, and sports. This is The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for today's edition. On set with me are two gentlemen, and I'm feeling so great to be sitting on this side and having two dashing looking young men here on set. These guys are from Digicel, Digicel Group and site Simtai. I'm not going to get confused with names and designations, so I'll ask them to introduce themselves. First, I'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Jeremy John. I'm a solutions architect with Digicel Group with a focus on cybersecurity.
Awesome, and you?
And I'm David Wright, and I'm the manager for cybersecurity services at Simtai Consulting, which is in Kingston, Jamaica.
Oh, and both your accents says Jamaica, right?
I am actually from Trinidad.
You're Trinidad? You're
Yes.
neighbor to Guyana?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I'll visit soon.
Okay. And I love the Jamaican circle too. Simtai.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit. The name sounds so strange. Every time I hear it or I see it, I'm like, Simtai.
Yeah,
what is this song like?
All right, so I'll tell you a little about Simtai. It's an IT consulting company in Kingston, Jamaica. In February of this year, we actually celebrated 25 years in existence.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so we serve a number of companies right across the Caribbean. We even serve Ghana, UK, North America. So we're all over. And we're happy to be here in BVI today.
Okay, why are you literally here? I know that there's been a seminar. I was not able to sit in on most of your presentation, but I heard a little snippet, and that sparked my interest. I think you were talking about the breach in the US. I think it was something around that area, and it's conversation that is happening. So tell us a bit about what you would have brought to the BVI in that seminar.
All right, so I would have spoken about the threats, the threat landscape in terms of cybersecurity. And essentially, cybersecurity and the threats are not limited to just the US. We might watch news and we might hear about all these major hacks happening across the world. I think last couple of weeks, the biggest one was MGM that were hacked. And one of the things I highlighted in my presentation yesterday is that we in the Caribbean are experiencing cyber attacks as well. These hackers, they are international. They don't care who they target. And that's the thing about cybercrime. You can be anywhere, so to speak, and be affected by somebody else all the way across the world. Recently, and I won't call the name of the government, but another Caribbean island's government was hacked, and they believe that the attackers were from Russia.
And when we hear Russia, we get scared. We tremble more than we tremble if we hear from Africa or somewhere. When we hear Russia, we tremble. But why should we be trembling no matter where we hear those attacks from?
Well, the reason we should be trembling is that the impact of a cyber attack can be so lasting. In fact, Jeremy can share the statistic, but most small businesses that are attacked don't ever recover. Because of the cost of a cyber breach. The average cost of a cyber breach worldwide is over $4 million. And in the Caribbean and Latin America, we found that it's somewhere just a little over $2 million. But essentially, the cost to recover from a breach, and the cost includes, yes, the technical efforts to recover, but also the damage control, the reputational risk to the business in terms of dealing with the regulators and the legislators in terms of if there are fines or other repercussions, lawsuits as a result of customer complaints.
So let's go to those statistics. We know that for most countries, small businesses are the engine of the economy. It keeps it going. The larger one, yes, they spread their wings. But when you trouble the small business sector, you're causing major damage. So tell us a little bit about that scenario.
A lot of people believe that small businesses are immune. They think that hackers only target the large companies and the large governments and so on. But the statistics show that 60% of small businesses, once they suffer attack, they close their doors within 6 months. So they might try to recover, but sometimes there's just no way out. And then more statistics show that 60% of companies never even look to see if they've been breached. And what attackers do, they would come into your organization, so they would embed some sort of code to be taking data from you, your financial data, your personal data, and they would sit there for days, weeks, months, until they have enough information that when they carry out the attack, they leave nothing for you. So they damage your reputation, they damage your finances, and after that, you have no other option but to close your doors. So the attackers target small businesses because a lot of the time, their focus is just on making the money. They don't really take cybersecurity into account. And it's something that we notice in the Caribbean. Businesses, they focus on business, which they're good at, but then they don't think that they need to secure themselves, which is part of the reason for the summit, to bring the visibility that the Caribbean is under attack. And some of the statistics that David would have shown is BVI itself is under attack. And BVI has vulnerabilities that are open to the internet, and hackers could see the vulnerabilities, so they would be actively trying to exploit them.
Okay, well, the BVI has wealth, so why not attack where the wealth is?
Exactly.
Yes, but while the engine is being pushed by small businesses, I'm coming to that wealthy country, but we have a way that we could protect ourselves.
Yes.
So let's talk about how do we protect ourselves, safeguard ourselves against these smart guys and gals.
So the first thing is awareness. We need to understand that no matter where we sit, whether we are the CEO of a company or we are a regular employee coming to work every day, we need to understand that we have a part to play in the security of the company. For instance, you might see me here today, you would meet me as an engineer from Digicel Group, a solutions architect, but then you would see an email coming from Jeremy John saying, well, I'm selling land in BVI, or I'm selling you a car. And you would click the link or you would open the attachment, and by the time you click that, it's actually from some hacker somewhere impersonating me, because you know my name now, we might be friends, and when you click that link, all of a sudden you're vulnerable. Your personal data or your company data is out there on the internet, or the hackers have taken some of your finances. So we need to bring the awareness not just to the IT teams, but to the individuals there, and we also highlight that that's part of what Digicel business does. We bring the awareness and we bring the people, so we put your IT teams in contact with the right people to empower the business. So it's not to try to replace anybody's IT teams, but it's to help bridge the gap of where your knowledge or your skill sets might be to where the company needs to be to better secure their environment.
And let's go to that clicking. These guys are so darn smart. It's so hard sometimes to decipher whether this is real or not. In most instances, let's simply use our little gadgets and the Facebook and those. Most times you can detect it when it comes as a messenger asking you something. But sometimes when you get a friend request and you know that I would not have been in communication with this person for so long, so maybe they were removed from my list and now I'm seeing them again. So yes, let's click. Or let's say you go to your email and you see something that looks so legitimate, but I want to prove whether or not it's illegitimate. It's legitimate. So I'm going to click to determine. How can I determine without clicking?
Okay, so one simple way is I send you a message that might be suspicious. You would think the only means you have is to message me back and find out. We could do something as simple as take out the phone and call.
But we
and when
call
I call
buddies.
you may not be called buddies, and if you can't take up the phone and call me, especially if the request is suspicious, then you don't respond, because you might be leaving yourself vulnerable.
Okay, and in some instances when you don't respond, you see that it looks a little suspicious, or your mind tells you, leave alone. We say in the BVI, leave alone.
It's better to be impolite and safe.
Yeah, but then you keep seeing repeated messages, and then you see urgent start coming in the main message line, and you become a little concerned. I'm gonna say it again, the guy's darn smart. How can we outsmart the smart ones?
Well, as Jeremy had said, first of all, we just have to be really aware. And the truth is, many times that suspicious email comes, it's not from a stranger. It may come from somebody you know. A typical scam is where you may get an email from someone you know, and just up to last week, somebody told me that something similar happened to them. Their friends called. That's a good thing to call, to say, I got this email to say that, you were in trouble and you were asking us to send some funds. In this case, apparently the funds were to be sent using some Apple Pay card or something like that. Now, some people were genuinely worried that my friend was in danger and needed assistance and needed funds, and we're trying to find other ways to help. But you really just have to always be on your P's and Q's. These hackers, they leverage our human emotions. So sometimes it's a case of curiosity, as you just expressed, but other times it's sympathy. In the case of saying, hey, my friend is worried, in trouble in some foreign land, and they need some funds and they need to get out of this terrible situation. So essentially they're playing on our emotion. In terms of technology, we implement firewalls, and what a firewall is really just a device that takes traffic coming into your computer, your network, and it makes a decision as to whether it is good or bad. And that will always work perfectly. But we as humans, we're actually flawed. And our firewall, our ability to make a decision as to whether we're going to click on that link or not, it will work today, but on another day,
may not work.
It may not, because we may be having a bad day, we're tired, we're frustrated, we're upset with our jobs, and the moment we see that email about an opportunity to win $500, we get excited, and that's another emotion, right?
Me play, I can't win, so I look at you catch me with the money part.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the other thing now, in a more serious note, what most small businesses feel, and I'm going to use the word feel because I would have listened to one of the presenters yesterday, is that this is expensive to do, to bring in the experts to help me secure my company, and so I'm just going to take the risk, or I just feel that I'm invincible.
Okay, so when we're deciding what we trying to protect, we need to understand the value it is to us. Now, value is a subjective thing. So value could be monetary value, but it could also be the value, intangible value to the business. So how important it is to protect this asset. If something goes wrong with this, would it affect my reputation and future customers? So when we think of the overall cost, then we would decide, I could spend the money to protect this, and it would be a wise investment for the company. Or we could look at something else and say, this being at risk doesn't bother me at all. And a lot of people think that cybersecurity is an expensive thing. And that's why Digicel partners with companies like SimTime.
That's why I said feel, because I was educated yesterday.
Exactly.
I, in my mind, too, thought that, this is going to cost me too much. I'm unable to be paying this monthly fee or this annual fee. Even if it's $20 sometimes some people that's too much.
Exactly. And that's why Digicel partners with companies like SimTime, so we could bring an affordable solution to companies. And when we bring the solution, Digicel doesn't just sell technology. Anybody could sell you, as you mentioned, a firewall to protect your network, and they drop it on your desk and say, you figure it out. Digicel sells the technology along with the people. So we provide the technology with the expertise 24/7. So anytime you have an issue, so we can figure it, we put it in there, we make sure you're safe, and we make sure your IT team knows what's going on. And anytime you have an issue, you have a question, or you have a concern, we are available 24/7, so you could reach out and we can help you. So we work with companies to provide that security at a reasonable price point to make sure that everybody is happy. Because if the customer is not happy, then we wouldn't be in business for long.
Okay, so let's go small business. We have the small business who is established. We would say JTV is a small business. We're established, yes, we have a staff core. But what about that small one? That hairdresser that rents a chair in a salon, and she manages her own affairs on her phone. How does she protect herself?
Well, the first thing that the first thing that anyone has to do to protect themselves is they just have to be mindful of what are the things that are at risk, as Jeremy would have touched on. What are the things that are at risk, and what are the things that you could do that could actually put them at risk? One of the most essential things that we have to consider is that the hackers, unlike in the movies where they break into a system, they don't actually break in. They get let in. And or they let themselves in. So how do they let themselves in? The first of which is, instead of trying to break into a house, why not just get the key? So in that case, we're talking about passwords. So they're targeting our passwords. So they want to do everything to get to our passwords. So they might send that phishing email that allows us to click on a link. We might get an email that says, okay, your bank account, there's an issue with your bank account and you need to resolve it, or with your online banking platform. And they will send you a link, and when you click on that link, and this email looks as if it's coming from the bank, you know. So when you log in and you see this site that looks like your online banking site, you enter your username and password, nothing happens. You enter it again, nothing happens. And you're like, why is this not working? But on the other end of that is the hacker who is there stealing your credentials, your username and your password.
Thank God I ain't wealthy.
And then they take your username and password, or your bank card number and password or whatever, and they go on your actual bank site, log in with your credentials, and transfer out your money all over the place. So they didn't break in, they just simply asked you for the key, you gave them the key, and they let themselves in. So that's essentially how a lot of the attacks actually take place. And there are hackers who will not even take your money. They will actually go and harvest all the credentials from a number of people out there and sell those credentials to other hackers out there. So I want to put this into perspective for you. Within the last 10 years, the FBI reported that cybercrime is more lucrative than narcotics. Somebody who wanted to make money illicitly would have gone into the drug trade, but now this is more lucrative to get into cybercrime. And the thing about cybercrime is that it's harder to detect. It's harder to find the person who is actually behind the crime. Whereas, you know, you catch somebody with a bag and you hold on to them and you see what's in the bag and you say, okay, you're guilty, send you to get to jail, court, etc., etc. But with cybercrime, it's so difficult to detect. And especially when it's a case where, as I shared a while ago, somebody is using your credentials, there's nothing to tie it back to them. I mean, there are things, but we don't want to get into the technical details, but there are things, but it's difficult. And these guys are smart, they know how to cover their tracks. So they're going to do things like ensure that they're not using a computer that can be tied to them. They're not going to hack you from their home and you can tie it back to their home address. They're going to go in a coffee shop. They're going to use a stolen computer. They're going to use somebody else's Wi-Fi. They're going to do everything to hide what they're doing.
So we're talking now about the need to have a worldwide revolutionizing of our legislative, criminal codes of conduct and all of that, because if I am here in the Virgin Islands, I get hacked, and even if they manage to find who would have done it, to prosecute that person is so difficult, because they are somewhere else in the world and not in the Virgin Islands. And so in most instances, you, the victim, continues to be the victim and the loser.
So, as you mentioned, the hackers would play on your perception. So the key is to try to protect yourself. So what you would have described there could be a perception-based attack. So you see the email coming from the bank, it looks legitimate. So you click the link and you go to the site. So, and even simple things the hackers would do, they would send you a link where the letters look similar to other letters, like a capital I looks like an L. So Digicel group could actually be Digicel group. You're going to and you're paying your bill and you're putting in your credit card information and you're compromised. So one of the simple ways around this, you get an email from your bank, some information is missing, you actually don't click the link. You go to the bank website, you browse there on your own and you log in and you check to make sure everything is valid. Or you try not to click links in emails and so on. So that way you protect yourself and you don't have to go through the trouble of worrying whether or not this was a suspicious email or it was a legitimate one. We take simple steps because human perception is flawed. We can't always see the difference in these things. So we take simple steps to protect ourselves, and that way we'd always be safe.
I might just add that I know about in Jamaica, I'm not sure about here, but all the banks have made a deliberate attempt to communicate to their customers through ads that they will never send you a link. If you receive a link, it's very likely suspicious, and you should call the bank immediately.
Mm. Okay, gotta check and see. Sometimes it's there, but we don't pay attention to details. And,
Creatures of habit.
Yeah,
You get an email, you click a link.
Yeah, as the times change, we got to just change the way we do certain things and how we approach certain situations. Most recently also, because like I said, these guys are so smart. I'm going to use the D word again, but they are so smart. They know companies like Digicel have exports within and without, like with Sintai. But yet they try to use you to get to your customers. Because we would have seen on so many occasions where Digicel in itself had to be sending out the very alerts to say, listen, this is not from Digicel, what's not. How do we go around that? Because trust me, I would have seen some stuff coming. To me, I realized it was suspicious because I didn't, most times Digicel informs us about a promotion that they have. We didn't see a promotion, but suddenly these gifts, giveaways, and this thing looks so real in terms of your logo, in terms of the color scheme, in terms of your style of arrangements. So what do you say to customers in that regard?
So it's the same thing. They play on your perception and, as you mentioned, emotions. So you see something looking free or some promotion, so they saying all that glitters is not gold. So if Digicel doesn't advertise it on the TV or first time you're hearing about it, just take the simple steps. You browse the Digicel's website, see if you're seeing any promotion. Never click the link in our email. If Digicel is not in the habit of doing it, why would we start now? Or any other company that you interact with, if they are not in the habit of sending you emails or sending you promotions, why would you start to click the links now? Because if something seems too good to be true, it's probably not true.
Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're good ones and they're true.
Yeah.
So because let's say seasonally, companies do put on promotions and stuff. So for some people who are not so savvy, may think, okay, yeah, maybe it's another thing, but they just check in to see, and as they click, then they realize that it's not for real. Yeah. But in this moment, as we wind down on the clock, what are the key messages that you want to leave with small businesses? What are the key messages you want to leave with individuals as it relates to protecting yourself, staying safe in this technological age?
So for small businesses first, I would say that we need to put a focus on cybersecurity, because once you're in the business of making money, hackers in the business are taking money. So we need to figure out what's the dangers around us based on our industry and our business, and figure out how we plan to protect ourselves. We do some kind of security awareness training for staff and other individuals in the company. And then if we realize that we don't have the right skill sets to do it for ourselves, reach out to companies like Digicel, like Simtai, who can help you develop that cybersecurity strategy and protect your assets. For individuals, we just need to be aware. We need to be aware that we live in a dangerous world.
Stay alert.
Stay alert, and anything that seems too good to be true is most likely not. If Digicel sends an email and you don't know anybody in Digicel to verify it, call the Digicel hotline. Is this a valid offer? And you can find out there whether or not it's true.
I'll add a few, and the first of which is, as I said earlier, the hackers basically looking to take your credentials. So the first thing that you want to do is ensure that you have strong passwords, right? And a strong password is one that is long and complex. Long, 12 characters or more, has at least one capital letter, one common letter, one symbol, one number. I know that sounds complex.
Not just complex. Some of us hold long, we brains don't hold them.
I know,
so
but
I'm going to keep changing.
I'm actually going to give you a tip, and that tip is you can use a password manager. So we go on our social media or email, and we have to have a password for everyone. You can have something called a password manager, and there are a number of popular ones out there. There is LastPass, KeepPass, Dashlane, any other.
OnePass, I think.
OnePass, I believe, right. So you can use a password manager. What the password manager does is each time you're logging into a website or you're creating a password for a website, it creates the password for you based on the complexity requirement that you have set. So you should set something like password length of 12 characters, must have one capital, one number, one symbol, and so forth. And what it will also do is store that password for you. And each time you need to log back into the site, it will provide the password for you. So you don't need to remember.
I have that one. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And it's also recommended that you never use the same password on more than one site. Because if you
Yes,
use the
I've done
same
that.
password for your Yahoo email that you use for the bank, or vice versa, the hacker who gets the password for one, all he needs to do is just use that same password on the other. So don't use the same password multiple times. And that's another feature of these password managers, in that they will actually audit all your passwords and tell you the ones that you're duplicating, and it will encourage you to change them. And I suggest that you follow the advice. The other thing that we should do outside of ensuring that we have strong passwords is not just limit our access to the system based on password, but use what we call multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. And what that basically means is don't just use a password. Use some other method to validate your identity. And typical way is to probably have the system send you an SMS to your phone, or even better, use an authenticator app, such as the Google Authenticator. And essentially, once you're logging into the site and you have entered your username and your password, the system will then prompt you with a code on your phone, and then you plug that code into the site as well, and that will allow you to log in. So essentially, it requires two different things, because if the hacker steals your password, he would have had to have also stolen your phone, which is highly likely. So that more so guarantees to the system that you are who you are, and it guarantees almost guarantees to you that nobody can break into the system unless they are really skilled, as I said, and they are able to get both your password and your phone.
Okay, I wish that we could have this just repeated and repeated and repeated so that it sticks, then sticks, then sticks, then so that that glue can be erased. And I hope that persons, if they need to, just keep going back to listen to you guys.
Right.
But otherwise, how can we make contact with experts like you? I know we have here at the Digicel office, we have Anil and his team, Mara and the team, everyone there. But generally, let's say for Simtai, yes, you're affiliated with Digicel in this instance, but you are also an independent company, and someone seeing and hearing of you now wants to tap into your intelligence.
Right.
How do they do that?
Well, they can contact us, yes, through Digicel, but they can also contact us at sales@simtai.com, and Simtai is SYMPTAI. So that's sales@simtai.com.
Okay, and you're always there with Digicel.
Always there with Digicel. So once you reach out to Anil, he knows the right experts to contact to find the solution for you.
All right, so Jeremy, David, thank you so much for great information, great interaction, and we shoot to edit, right?
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Everyone looks to the future, but no one truly knows what the future holds.
The number of people under the age of 20 with type 2 diabetes could increase by 49% by 2050. Let it be known that we all have a 30% chance of developing hypertension.
Globally, more than 300 million people of all ages suffer from depression.
More than 60,000 young adults aged 20 to 39 are diagnosed with cancer each year. Obesity leads to problems such as stroke, heart disease, and kidney failure.
No matter your race, age, or color, we are all at risk.
These diseases can be managed or prevented if caught early.
But with the right medicine and the right doctors to keep us on a path to live a robust and healthy life,
we will live well.
Plug into Digicel Plus and get even more entertainment with Disney Plus included. The best of Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic all in one place. Whenever you want, plug into Plus to enjoy Disney Plus and much more with a home fiber bundle. Sign up today. Digicel Plus.